Wow, you picked a really niche area to cover with this video. Dragon's Dogma is probably the most YouTubed video game up there with Fortnite and Anthem. Good reason for that, all will be explained. And we've also had a sequel come in. Now, this game was designed by Ento Kinoshita, and he made Strider in 1989. There's the line of inquiry. We just had Strider on the platform list. This game has been on the channel before. I put it up against all the other party PS4 games. I'll put a link in the description. It went up against Dragon Age Inquisition. You have to have a look at the video to see how that turned out. Here he is, look, Asmongold with his reaction videos, with his gaunt face on every single thumbnail he rolls out. You grow tired of it as a creator. Hey, blimey, what an uplifting intro. Now, we're going to get the pans out of the way. I've got to get something off my chest. Naughty Dog have just released a remastered version of The Last of Us Part 2, and it feels like a couple of days after the release of the original Last of Us Part 2, which ran at 60 frames per second and I think 4K on certain modes. Didn't we just have The Last of Us Part 1 remastered and the Nathan Drake stuff? What are they doing as a studio? Get your shit together, come up with something new. And Sony and Capcom, why am I playing this at 1080 at like barely 60 frames per second? If you'd rolled out an SSD PlayStation 5 version of this game, I guarantee 50% of the fans would put the money down. Please put something in the comments about that, because this game is so beloved, and just going back to it at the PlayStation 4 Pro specs, which is what we get on the PlayStation 5, just hurt me a bit. You're going to timestamp these pans? Nope. You're going to have to just deal with them. I want you to see that we still have a little bit of pop in there, but I also want you to realise that this game is still stunning. 12 years old. And not only that, its mechanics, character development and system as an RPG game still thrashes loads of stuff out there at the moment. That's what I want to talk about today. You may have not played this, or did what I managed on first playthrough, was get to about quarter of the way through it. Not really get to the vocations, not really open up cool prawns. Weapons, the map, the characters, the structure, it's colossal. Even crafting, getting new elements, getting photobombed by your NPCs constantly during the pans. Just something I dealt with after a bit. That one, look, I've left one. Look at the skull on the minimap. I'm like, I'm done with you. I'm done. I've got to go down to the beach. I've got to get some decent footage. This is decent footage for a 12-year-old 9th generation game. And this is also rolled out on the Switch. And I tell you, that is absolutely perfect because, you know, those graphics look at home on that system. But just for its sheer size, on a handheld, you know, that's a really cool concept. Let's drill on that concept. Why is this so famous? Why is it so successful? And why do I love going back to it all the time? Well, it's kind of got this age-old system of having a pawn, which is technically a helper NPC, just like anything on Skyrim or Fallout, but you design them and you kit them out and you actually rest them on a server, okay? So does everybody else, and you have 2 more slots for helpers to fill in, and you grab other people's pawns, and they would have put them together, designed them themselves, given them comedy male voices. Fun in that direction is kind of endless. It's also got a flawless combat system that operates in real time without a focus button. Now that's very important. That gives it a Monster Hunter feel. You've got great swords in here, dual blades, archery, even magic and mage stuff with healers, and even having a pawn as a mage. Constructing your party is kind of half the fun, and you keep going back, you keep jostling things, pawns die, you have to get new ones. Little hint, if you put some armor on a pawn that isn't yours, it goes to the user and not the pawn that you've got in slot. I found that out the hard way. What I did discover on replay is that its questing system is not as intuitive as some of the newer RPGs that are out there at the moment. There's no tracker path to head in this direction. Yeah, they put something on the map, but normally it's too far away to appear on that mini-map. Can you see that purple circle? Sometimes you will have to check the main map to see which direction to go in, and that's a 2-button process. I had to go to Google at one point to work out how to progress the main quest line, because I hadn't gone into the noble quarters in one of the main village and hadn't instigated an NPC to talk to me, and I was just stuck. There's also technically 2 versions of Dragon's Dogma, the original and then the Arisen, which came out 1 year after Dark Arisen, I should add, which is available to you quite early, but it's not shown that it's a vastly OP section of the map. You get on a boat, you go and talk to some woman, and everything in this temple really wants to kill you and is particularly OP. So it's something you need to visit later on. Again, not clearly mapped out to you, and I fell foul of that immediately. At one point, I had nothing in my to-do quest list other than that seagull thing where you have to go down to the beach and whack a seagull that flies away as soon as you get within 8 meters of it. And I'm like 45 minutes on this. I'm thinking, am I doing the right thing? Once you're through a lot of those scripted events, you're kind of given the whole map and a free reign to sort of go and find quests and do the main if you want. But I recommend really doing everything within a location prior to moving on because there's massive loot. The animation on this snake beast, 2012 people, and it looked like this kind of on day one. Now our next selling point, other than having an unlimited resource of user-generated NPC helpers, is the grab mechanic, and surprisingly it sits on R2 and L2. It occupies two major buttons on the pad. Shadow of the Colossus does have remnants of this in it, and it's incredible to crawl up these monsters, whack off a tail, get a sword in the eye. It gives you such an added angle to the combat and even gives you a sort of Monster Hunter I've mounted the beast feel. The day-to-day combat is also incredibly satisfying, giving you like a Souls-like guard on L1 and then multiple attacks, hard and fast. You can't roll, but you can do slashes from the air. It does feel like a Capcom quality game. You've got little tiny essences of all of their big major AAA hack and slashes in here. As mentioned before, I include Monster Hunter in that statement.
Quite the grand structure. A way castle, perhaps? Protect the cart!
Also got a fair amount of welcome campaign structure with some cool missions giving you different angles. There's protection, there's escort, there's go out and bounty hunt or go and kill a particular monster, or even dungeons, going right down inside complexes or dealing with massive ogres on surprise. The ambush thing is very cool. It also doesn't hold back on introducing some really crazy enemies too. You've got harpies and you've got goblins, and then you've got sort of human bandit characters who are quite formidable. They can defend and come back at you with range, bow and arrows, etc. So the initial depth that you get when you've played like 5 hours of this game is mind-blowing. You're like, oh my god, this is potentially the best action RPG on the market, and you wouldn't be far wrong with that statement. It's got that what I call a homely hub system, where you've got a major village, a few of them, but one that particularly you can develop, start giving presents to the traders, getting discounts, and it's huge, the amount of weapons and armor that you can buy and bolt on. And again, back to the MH reference, you can whack on different trousers and helmets and start upgrading your great sword or giving your NPC character a new bow and arrow. You are just sorted for hours just working out what you're going to put on.
You can summon pawns as necessity demands here at the Pawn Guild.
How much control do you actually have over the party? Well, you've kind of got 4 basic commands, and that would be one of my complaints, is getting them out of trouble. So if you're in a fight that you know you're underpowered for, getting them out at speed is difficult, and casualties are frequent, and that's why I think the replacement on the pawn front isn't a bad idea, because you get to rotate and work out different angles of combination. You're not just stuck with the same set through the whole game. Pawns will die. Thought we were done with the pans. We are never done with the pans. I want to just touch on interiors and lighting very quickly. Herbie mentioned that campaign and what it throws at you. You wouldn't believe some of the temple/dungeons that you creep down and what you find in there as well. It is super scary. They've done a brilliant job with giving you a lamp that requires oil to replenish, and once that goes out, it can really hit the fan. It's got that brilliant claustrophobic, panicked idea when you're away from the daytime, and I don't know too many games that exploit that as well as this does. You heard me mentioning that hold mechanic earlier. You can grab the enemies and hold them up, and then your NPCs will just whack an arrow in them or give them a death blow. Sometimes you can grab your NPC by accident and cause the whole process to backfire on itself. How great it looks down here with the shadows and the debris and the explosions and how the light works. It's really a great piece of work, this, and they set a hell of a standard back then in 2012/13. guy doing a back slam to get me off. Little moves like that, little vulnerable areas on the beast as well. I think his backside might be one of the weak spots with this guy, and you'll also notice that some of the larger enemies have these little dots under the health, and that sort of represents a second stage for the attack. They can be quite laborious. If you go after something that you're underpowered to beat, it can just take ages, and you'll end up using up a whole bunch of consumables and just wasting 45 minutes. Just stopped for a bite to eat there. It was mac and cheese. Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. I oven cook it at the end, put chicken strips on the top, chopped bacon, okay, and then add some cheap cheese. This thing would give Elvis Presley heart palpitations. Back to that Asmon thing, I feel a bit bad now. He raised 300 grand for charity for taking a shower. He must be thinking, wow, where's that OnlyFans account? Ugh! Right, back to the matter in hand. One of the last things I want to explain is its day and night system. You remember me mentioning that oil and the light, if you run out or if there are things out there that you can't see, you'll walk right into them. There's no sort of alert on the minimap, so venturing around once the sun has gone down is kind of a bit like New Game Plus. Resting or skipping time isn't like Fallout or Skyrim. It will cost you money, so you have to think tactically about when you're going to go out, when you're going to start traveling. There's no safe vehicle, so to speak. The exposure on that front is a brilliant angle. Is this the best party action-based RPG out there currently? Well, it's a damned strong one, and there's very, very few that equal it. And for the cost, for the amount of systems that it's available on, and the fact that it's free on PSN this month, you have no excuses now to have a look at greatness. And talking of greatness, if you're unsubscribed or you've found me for the first time, you have the power to make me a bigger YouTuber. All you gotta do is get that index finger clicking. You haven't got to fill out a form, you haven't got to give me any money, you haven't got to play Raid Shadow fucking Legends. And I could get a studio, I could get a camera, I could get Jason Schreier as an assistant. You know this is the way forward. So here's the sequel trailer. Now the good news about this is it's just more of what we've got. It just looks like a brilliantly upscaled version of Dragon's Dogma 1. They haven't rocked that boat too much. Only time will tell, and I think this may be a 10th generation system exclusive. Don't quote me on that, but everything looks to be in the right place, so huge excitement on this front.
He's a mere mummer. Then where might our true Arisen?
Empress Nadinia's life is in your hands, Sir Arisen.
Praise be, for only the Sovereign's guidance can lead us true. Long live the Sovereign of Vermont!
Regulars, thank you very much for making it to the back end. What am I going to review next? Raid Shadow Legends jokes. We've got The Last Guardian coming up. I'm going to be so nice about that because Ico, you know, Shadow of the Colossus, and then that. We're going to unpack exactly what happened there, and we're going to see what it looks like on the PlayStation 5. Just quickly before I go, this is a perfect representation of what happens to you when you get to my age, particularly in sword and sorcery combat. I'll see you down there, yeah?